Okay. Peace. I was looking up some information and I wanted to share it with you because I know I got a lot of people who see my posts and say, "Oh, y'all Trump supporters is being quiet. Why you not out here talking now?" But I had to get some things together before I came and said what I had to say. Because where I'm going to be coming from is from the law perspective and not the political, which they kind of go hand in hand, but it's different when you're dealing with citizens and when you're dealing with aborigines. So I just want to read this from the Declaration of Independence. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Prudence indeed will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes, and accordingly, all experience has shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. Such has been the patient sufferance of these colonies, and such is now the necessity which constrains them to alter their former systems of government. The history of the present King of Great Britain is a history of repeated injuries and usurpations, all having indirect object the establishment of an absolute tyranny over these states. To provide this, let facts be submitted to a candid world. So what stuck out to me was, it's your duty to throw off such government and provide new guards for their future security. So a lot of you know that I supported Donald Trump, and I supported Donald Trump on issues of the businesses, helping small businesses, because he's a businessman and he knows what actually keeps the country running is small businesses. But through this COVID bullshit, they're able to shut down small businesses and take the moms and pops out while the oligarchies gobble up all of those businesses. You got your Amazons and your Walmarts and all of these big people gobbling up the little man, and then they put the rules in. Now you got to take a shot. You can't come and eat in here. You got to follow a curfew. You have to do all of this and do all of that. Well, we've been under tyranny because this is our land. So with the doctrine of discovery and Spain saying whoever's not Christian, you can just go and take over their lands and come with the Jesus book and civilize all these people. When they got here, we were already civilized and we were already here. We had whole governments. We wrote the Constitution for the United States of America. So I don't want to go too fast and skip too far. But the point that I was making was where I feel like we dropped the ball at is if we were really paying attention and we were really about justice and law, we would have been at the Capitol. And when I talk about we, I'm talking about indigenous Aborigines. I'm talking about Moors. I'm talking about African Americans, blacks. I'm talking about Latinos. I'm talking about Jamaicans. I'm talking about anybody who's here, whose hue is copper colored. Copper color. Copper color. Copper color. Anyone who's copper color, and it could be any color on the rainbow. It could be that copper. It could be this copper. It could be this copper. It could be anything except this. These are copper colors all over the place. All different colors. All different shades. Right? Copper color. So, when I say copper color, when I look at the Webster's dictionary meaning of American, it's a native, a noun, a native America, a native of America, originally applied to the Aboriginals or copper-colored races found here by the Europeans. That's Webster's dictionary, 1828. Then Etymology's dictionary for American, 1570s, originally one of the Aboriginal peoples discovered in the Western Hemisphere by the Europeans. So, all right. I'm just saying, we should have been there. We should have been there too. Because based on what the Declaration of Independence say for the Europeans who are now citizens of the United States, when you're facing tyranny, that's what you do. You go and you approach these people. And they did that. Now, the looting and all that shit, the looting and the taking things out of the Capitol building and all that, that was just something for show. That wasn't even it. But the thing is, we should have been right there with our issues. Like, number one, being classified as blacks and African Americans. Those. So here it is. Let me see if I can turn this camera around. Hold on. Okay. Peep this. And I hope you can see it. This is the United States Department of Commerce Operation of Management and Budget. This is their questionnaire on race and ethnicity. So, in these guidelines, it says O&B categories and definitions, all federal statistical agencies, including the Census Bureau, must adhere to the 1997 Office of Management and Budget, O&B, right? The O&B standards specify 5 minimum categories for data on race: American Indian or Alaska Native, Asian, Black or African American, Native Hawaiian or other Pacific Islanders, and white. And 2 categories for data on ethnicity: Hispanic or Latino and not Hispanic or Latino. The O&B standards explain that the specific race and ethnicity categories are socio-political constructs and should not be interpreted as being scientific or anthropological in nature. Now they telling you this right here in this census. This is the United States Department of Commerce. It says that these race and ethnicity categories are socio-political constructs. So socio-political constructs are created. Those are created things like paper, like birth certificates and shit. Like, so let me just read it to you. So for instance, Listen at this. American Indian or Alaska Native. A person having origins in any of the original peoples of North and South America, including Central America, and who maintains tribal affiliations or community attachment. Asian. A person having origins in in any of the original peoples of the Far East, Southeast Asia, or the Indian subcontinent, including, for example, Cambodia, China, India, Japan, Korea, Malaysia, Pakistan, and Philippine Island, Thailand, and Vietnam. I'm going to just skip these two for right now. Native Hawaiian, a person having origins in any of the original peoples of Hawaii, Guam, Samoa, or other Pacific islands. And white, a person having origins in any of the original peoples of Europe, the Middle East, or North Africa. Then there's Black and African American, a person having origins in any of the Black racial groups of Africa. Terms such as Haitian or Negro can be used in addition to Black or African American. Hispanic or Latino, a person of Cuban, Mexican, Puerto Rican, Cuban, South of Central America, or other Spanish culture in origin. Regardless of race, the term Spanish origin can be used in addition to Hispanic or Latino. So just for time's sake, I'm not even going to ask you what do you notice is the difference. I'm going to just point it out to you. That every race except Black and Hispanic and Latino have origins in any of the original peoples. When you look at Black, they have origins in any of the Black racial groups. What's a Black racial group? Is that a land? Is that a place? What is a Black racial group of Africa? But now, one thing I appreciate about this is that they're telling us that we're all the same people. We should already know that because we were here when they got here. That's all the copper colors. That's all of those right there. This is us. When they got here, right here, this is what they saw. When they got here, this is what they saw. So that right there, that whole African back to Africa story is some bullshit. But I know I'm going off on a tangent here, but it wraps up. So anyway, being that your social political constructs, and being that when they arrived here, we were already here, we showed them how to live off of our land. We showed them how to survive, and we also gave them guidelines on how to conduct commerce on our lands. And it's called the Constitution. So let me go to the Constitution. So we the people, the preamble, we the people of the United States. Hold on, let me turn this around. We the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. Do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. So our people actually wrote the Constitution for the United States of America based off of the Great Law of Peace, which was the law of the land, and how all of the nation states operated together. So the Great Law of Peace is the law that contributed to and founded the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People, the American Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People, the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence. So the Great Law of Peace was the foundation of all law. So when you look at Article 1, Section 2, and Clause 3, this is where the politics come in at. So it tells you the House of Representatives shall be composed of members chosen every second year by the people of the several states, and the electors in each state when shall have the qualifications requisite for electors of the most numerous branch of the state legislature. No person shall be a representative who shall not have attained the age of 25 years and been 7 years a citizen of the United States, and who shall not, when elected, be an inhabitant of the state in which he shall be chosen. So it's telling you, everything about your election and your officials and who. So this is where it gets juicy. Representatives and direct taxes shall be apportioned among the several states, which may be included within the Union, according to their respective numbers, which shall be determined by adding to the whole number of free persons, including those bound to service for a term of years, and excluding Indians not taxed. Do you see this right here? And excluding Indians not taxed. Right? 3/5 of all other persons. The previous sentence in parentheses was modified by the 14th Amendment. Okay, so they want to bring up the 14th Amendment. Let's do this. Let me put in 14 on this document. And here it is. 14th Amendment, Citizen Rights, ratified July 9th, 1868. So, all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States. Nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the law. Representatives shall be appointed among several states according to their respective numbers, counting the whole number of persons in each state. So this is, where your census comes in, right? But what does it say right here? Excluding Indians not taxed. Okay, so now let me go back to the definitions. Indian. This is the Bouvier's dictionary adapted to the Constitution. Indians. The Aborigines of this country are so called. Indian tribe, a separate and distinct community or body of Aboriginal Indian race of men found in the United States. Well, who in the hell are they talking about? Are they talking about the Americans? The native of America originally applied to the Aboriginals or copper-colored races found here by the Europeans? Found here by the Europeans? Found here by the Europeans. He's European. This is his dictionary, and that is his meaning, and we were here when they got here. All right, and then we'll go here to American and the Etymology Dictionary. 1570s originally, 1570s, not 19 nothing, 1570s originally, one of the Aboriginal peoples discovered in the Western Hemisphere by Europeans. From modern Latin Americanus, from America. Look at this. The original sense is now Native Americans. See what I'm saying? Native Americans. Native Americans are not copper colored. Native Americans look like that. So, okay. Anyway, that leads to Walter Plecker. Walter Plecker. See, and I'm just doing this real quick because I'm going to get back to the point of being at the Capitol. But Walter Ashby Plecker, this is 1861 to 1947, right? This is how long that shit been going on. Walter Ashby Plecker was a physician and the first Virginia State Registrar of Vital Statistics, a position he served in from 1912 to 1946. He was a staunch promoter of eugenics, a discredited movement aimed at scientifically proving white racial superiority and thereby justifying the marginalization of non-white people. Employing Virginia's Act to Preserve Racial Integrity in 1924, Plecker effectively separated Virginia citizens into two simplified racial categories. So I got to pause right there because I got to go and take you back to this right here so you can understand racial categories. See, 2020 Census Program Memorandum, that's why you got to go to the Constitution and you got to read that shit so that you can catch up to understand why the fuck this 2020 census bullshit and it's all connected together when they say, oh, blacks got the highest this, blacks got the highest in AIDS, blacks got the highest in high blood pressure, Hispanics got the highest in this and that and whatever else the fuck may be. But everybody else who is a person of origins and all that stuff, they don't even have to deal with that because they're going to line you up for the vaccines. They're going to line you up for the sicknesses and they're going to get you to come in every month and take a mammogram and take this because they're going to keep on until they find something and make your test positive so that you could be the highest in whatever the fuck else is going on. But anyway, let me pipe down. Okay. So anyway, where was I at? Racial and ethnicity, Walter Ashby Plecker, right? Okay, let's go back to him. A discredited movement aimed at scientifically providing white racial superiority and thereby justifying the marginalization of non-whites. So if there's only two categories, which is white and non-white, where the fuck did everybody else come from? Because if the new Native American, according to this dictionary meaning, see, it says copper-colored races found here by the Europeans, but now applied to the descendants of Europeans born in America. How the fuck can that happen when these people are doing the marginalization of white and non-whites? Where did the people come from? That's why all that Jamaican, Puerto Rican, Dominican, whatever else is all of us. We all the same people. We're all the same people. But it had to start somewhere, and it started at the non-white and white people. So let me go back. Employing Virginia's Act to Preserve Racial Integrity in 1924, Plecker effectively separated Virginia citizens into simplified racial categories, white and colored. The law, which remained in effect until 1967, when it was overturned by the United States Supreme Court in the case of Loving versus Virginia, required that a racial description of every person be recorded at birth. While criminalizing marriages between whites and non-whites, Plecker's policies used deceptive scientific evidence. Deceptive scientific evidence. Blacks are inferior. Blacks can't read. Blacks are lazy. All they like is chicken and watermelon. Blacks are dumb. Ebonics is stupid. All of these, whatever. All the shit that they say. Highest in crime, the fucking dope fiends, the highest in AIDS, the highest in high blood pressure. Deceptive scientific evidence to deem blacks a lesser class of human beings. But they also targeted poor whites and anyone he or other eugenics considered feeble-minded, asserting that Virginia Indians were in fact mixed-blooded Negroes. How the fuck are you mixed-blooded Negroes when the only people who was here was white and non-white? So how are you mixed-blooded Negroes? See how they changed the language right in front of your face? Okay, anyway. Plecker also pressured state agencies. So this is how you know this nigga wasn't by himself. Excuse me, I wasn't supposed to say that. But he wasn't by himself. Congress had to be involved in it. There was a lot of people involved in letting this go on. But anyway, Plecker also pressured state agencies into reclassifying, there you go, reclassifying Indians as colored. So now I got to go back here again to this. Department of Commerce, buying and selling. United States Department of Commerce, Economics and Statistics Administration. race and ethnicity categories. The OMB standards explain, they tell you that the specified race and ethnicity categories are socio-political constructs and should not be interpreted as being scientific, hereditary, genealogy, or anthropological in nature. So why are we self-identifying with this? Why are we self-identifying with that? Anyway, Plecker also pressured state agency into reclassifying Indians as colored. The policy's legacy was effectively to erase Indian as an identity and has made it difficult for Virginia Indians to gain state and federal recognition. State and federal recognition, you ask. State and federal recognition is your Native Americans who are under USC 25. USC 25 under Native Americans. They are wards of Congress. So they get to vote and they get to do all these things, but they erased our identity and replaced it with the Native Americans. So the Native Americans are from Russia and Siberia and all these different places, and they've come over here. That's why they got the chinky eyes and the light skin, because on that side of the world it was fucking cold, and they came over here, and this is why they got this hair and the long noses and all that. Those are not Indians. Now I gotta pause here because I have to say this is why, another reason why I respected Donald Trump, because he said they don't look like Indians to me. He said they don't look like Indians to the Indians. So Donald Trump was doing a lot of things with taxes. He moved the tax code back to the First Amendment because taxes are voluntary. It says that in the tax code, but you got to read in order to see all of that. Taxes are voluntary, and he moved them to where they were supposed to be. How is it that you make a contract with an employer to work for them, but then you got to pay the state taxes? And then I know you'll say, oh, because, we got to pay for roads and we got to pay for this and we got to pay for that. What was happening before the United States got here? Because when you looked up the Aborigine and indigenous art, we already had computers. We already had sports. When they got here, we were making glasses and silverware and braiding our hair with gold because we have the power to manifest. This is why they still can't figure out how the pyramids got here. They still can't figure it out. But that's a whole nother story, because then I don't want to go off too far and then you be like, oh, see, now she crazy or something like that. I don't want to hear that shit. I'm going back to the motherfucking law. Okay, so Plecker, let's go back here. So the policy's legacy was effectively to erase Indian as an identity and has made it difficult for Virginia Indians to gain state and federal recognition. So when we go back to the Constitution, it says it in the 14th Amendment. Look, the 14th Amendment, excluding Indians not taxed. So do you see why? Do you see why there's a reason for you to be black? There's a reason for you to be black. They need you to be black. Because if you're black, you can't be excluding Indians not taxed. And you can't be the owners of the land that they colonized. So this is why everything that happens here in these United States, which is really a 10-mile radius in Washington, D.C., that's a whole nother story right there. But anyway, the United States needs you to be black so that they can continue to extort you, take taxes from you, and make everything a crime so that they can charge you with it. So they involved in everything, and it's all around. Do you talk about the prison, the school pipeline? We talking eugenics, because they just genocided us on paper in 1924 with the birth certificate. So that's why there's no more excluding Indians not taxed, because they made you black. So, all right, Let's go here to House Congress Resolution 331. House Congress Resolution 331 is a congruent resolution to acknowledge the contribution of the Iroquois Confederacy of Nations to the development of the United States Constitution. Okay, let me read that one more time. I know what it says, but I just want to make sure you heard what it said. To acknowledge the contribution of the Iroquois Confederacy of Nations to the development of the United States Constitution, and to reaffirm the continuing government-to-government relationship between Indian tribes and the United States established in the Constitution. So then let me go back to the Constitution right quick, because that motherfucker said what? Excluding Indians not taxed in the 14th Amendment. And it said it up here too in Article 1, Section 2, and Clause 3. I mean, I read it. So Article 1, Section 2, Clause 3. When you do your counting of your people and your census and all that shit, you know what you're supposed to do? Excluding Indians not taxed. Now, I'm showing you this right here in your face. Indian tribe, a separate and distinct community or body of the Aboriginal Indian race of men found in the United States. That's us. But then this is the second meaning, right? Remember I said that the Native Americans who are of British descent or wherever the fuck they come from, Siberia or whatever, this is who they're talking about, because there's always a connotative and a denotative meaning. So this says Indian tribe. This is Indian tribe 1. Remember the original? That's us. The original. Then there's 2. Such a tribe situated within the boundaries of a state, right? And exercising the powers of government and sovereignty. So it's saying exercising the powers. That's how they get their casinos and they got the lands and all that other shit. But look what's happening under the national government. So that would be the United States. That's why they always taking their shit from them. See what I'm saying? So they relived that over and over again, where they initially took it from the original land owners, who are us. But now it's the Europeans. So now you just keep seeing, oh, they keep taking their land and they running pipes through here and there. All these motherfuckers signed up on the same damn ticket. They all know what's going on and they signed up for it. We were the ones who was blind. But anyway, let me finish reading. Under the national government is deemed politically a state. They deem politically a state. See? So now we got to go back to this shit right here, because you got to tie it in. Politically a state, American Indian, Alaska Native. See what I'm saying? Politically a state, because you got to realize with this language, they talking about two different people. Okay. So, oh, wait a minute. Hold on. Let me go back to definition. Politically a state. That is a distinct political society capable of self-government, but is not deemed a foreign state. See, because you underneath the fucking United States. See, that's the bullshit, right? In the sense of the Constitution. See how they bring up the Constitution? Listen, but it is not deemed a foreign state in the sense of the Constitution. Because you remember what the Constitution said? Excluding Indians not taxed. You with me? All right, so peep game. Okay, so American Indian, Alaska Native, a person having origins in any of the original peoples of North and South America, including Central America, and who maintains tribal affiliation or community attachment. See, that's not excluding Indians not taxed. So that's why there's two different people. You got your Native Americans and your Aborigines. Native Americans, Aborigines. Okay. So, hold on. Anyway, we're going back to House Congress Resolution 331. So, this is to reaffirm the continuing government-to-government relationship between Indian tribes and the United States established in the Constitution. So we already know who wrote the Constitution. We already know what Indian tribes they were talking about. This is Indian tribes and the United States established in the Constitution is these people. Whereas the original framers of the Constitution, including most notably George Washington and Benjamin Franklin, are known to have greatly admired the concepts of the Six Nations of the Iroquois Confederacy, the original people. Whereas the confederation of the original 13 colonies into one republic was influenced by the political system developed by the Iroquois Confederacy. So you saying that the Iroquois Confederacy helped to create a political system after these people got here and colonized the land? Then the Iroquois did that? That doesn't even make sense. It doesn't make sense at all. Like I said, we were here, like the information that I'm reading, says we were here when they already got here. And they greatly admired our concepts because we already had politics locked down because we were under the Great Law of Peace. I mean, the Great Law of Peace. We already had our system together when they got here. Whereas the confederation of the original 13 colonies into one republic was influenced by the political system developed by the Iroquois Confederacy, as were many of the democratic principles, you hear that, which were incorporated into the Constitution itself, you hear that? And whereas since the formation of the United States, the Congress has recognized the sovereign status of Indian tribes and has, through the exercise of powers reserved to the federal government in the Commerce Clause of the Constitution, Article 1, Section 2, Clause 3, dealt with Indian tribes on a government-to-government basis and has that the Treaty Clause, Article 2, Section 2, Clause 2, entered into 370 treaties with the Indian tribal nations. The original tribal nations. Whereas from the first treaty entered into with an Indian nation, the treaty with the Delaware Indians of September 17, 1778, the Congress has assumed a trust responsibility to obligation to Indian tribes and their members. Whereas this trust responsibility calls for Congress to exercise what? The utmost good faith in dealing with the Indians as provided for in the Northwest Ordinance of 1787. So just to give you a little something on that, the Northwest Ordinance of 1787 was basically that these Europeans was only supposed to come here for 50 years, do commerce, and take their fucking asses back. That's what that was. So if they came here and was attempting to get land or to work, they had to ask us first. They had to make sure it was fine with us first. That was the agreement. So with that agreement, do you see why you need to be black? Because if you're black and you don't know your identity, you cannot claim what is rightfully yours. We are the children of God. How do you know the children of God? Because we believe that his son came and showed us how we're supposed to live. And when we talk to each other and they say, oh yeah, I know Christ's way and I follow the commandments of the Most High, then you know that you're dealing with your brother. These people who genocided us, took us off of our land on paper, and then made us pay for it, that's not of God. So, you could pull all this stuff. Well, it is some juicy stuff in here, and I do hate to cut it off, but I don't want to just keep talking too long. But anyway, my point is, do you see who we are? So now what we were supposed to do, in my opinion, right? This is just my opinion. I ain't read it nowhere, except the information that I'm reading right now. My opinion is, we were supposed to be up there at the Capitol too. Because according to the documents that I just wrote, the Declaration of Independence and all of that, if we were there with the Trump supporters and they bust into the Capitol building we would have been right there. You know why? And we would have been cool. You know why? Because they wasn't fucking with nobody. So that would have been our opportunity. Let the Europeans lead the show because they are the citizens of the United States. Come on. They're the citizens of the United States. We follow right behind them with all this documentation right here. But guess what we would have done? We would have had a Congress session right there on the House motherfucking floor. So instead of us arguing on Facebook about who is this and who is that and Biden this and Biden that, fuck them niggas. Half of them is probably, oh man, I said that word again. All right, anyway. Half of them people are, did you see them cowering down on the Capitol floor? Like, these are the fathers of the children who are police officers. Like, they all mixed in this all together. Them people is just sitting there, warm bodies, taking up space in the Congress. That's all. Just warm bodies taking up space in Congress. Don't know law. Because that's apparent what we're talking about. The Declaration of Independence said it is our duty to remove or abolish this government and come in with a whole new thing. And we would have been all on the floor right there, giving them a history lesson. So that the lie could come off all at one time because they thought that they was coming here and they thought that they was founding fathers and they was superior and all that shit. Like, they've been lied to too. They've been lied to too, and they got to figure this all out. And we could have been right there with them. So my point is that I said all of that to say there's a lot of things that I liked about Trump. And it's just like, y'all know me anyway. If you know me well enough, there's some things I like about people and some things I don't. But it don't stop me from still hearing what they have to say or participating in any kind of debate or conversation with them to obtain more knowledge. So with the things that Trump was talking about, for me, he was talking about the Constitution. And as you see, that's an important document to me. He was talking about the Bill of Rights and the votes and how this is supposed to go. Now, if he lied and it really wasn't no tampering with the votes, okay, what he did was wrong. However, he called his people to come and make some changes. That's why that was wrong, because if he lied about it, then you got people riled up for a lie. However, the lie still needed to be told because you have a people that are being suppressed on their own land with no seem like help in sight, to whereas Trump was the help because he was bringing it out in the open who we really are. And for me personally, it looked like we missed the mark of being in a place that we could have actually gotten some real shit done. And that would have been right at that Capitol building. Like you said, if it was all black people, it would have been bodies up there, but it wouldn't have been all black people. And then we would have looked like Greece, and we would have looked like India, and we would have looked like Venezuela, because all the people got out and disputed the government and made changes, and now they're on their way to recovery. And we just now talking about forced vaccinations. See what I'm saying? How do you do that? Who makes up these rules? Who makes up these rules? You have people in hospitals, prisons, and places where they can't go anywhere, but the staff goes home every night, and then the people who are in the establishments get penalized and punished, getting all kind of tests and shit stuck up their nose and vaccines and medications and ventilators and all kind of stuff, but the staff goes home every night. That's against the Constitution. It's unconstitutional. You can't do that. But if you don't read and if you don't practice law or anything, you won't know that. So anyway, I say all that to say there's still certain things. I don't participate in the voting. So I'm just saying there were certain things that you could see the way the movement was going, where Trump was actually adhering to the Constitution, and it just was refreshing to hear, because now you can come and speak that language and people know what you're talking about. Because prior to Trump in office, when we would say excluding Indians not taxed, they just want to automatically refer us to Native Americans, and you're not federally recognized. Why do we need you to tell us who we are? So anyway, I'm just saying that because, like I said, there's certain things about Trump that I appreciated. This is the information that I have to bring to the table. You can use it, or you don't. Peace and love.